G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here, back with part 3 of David Suzuki's Christmas message.
And we ensure we will never manage those incredible systems. So that was Rachel Carson's great contribution, to me at least, was that everything is interconnected. Impelled by Rachel Carson's book, I joined millions of people around the world in what we now see was a modern environmental movement. And the activity was enormous. In only 10 years, we got the United Nations forming UNEP, the United Nations Environment Program, calling its first international conference on the environment in Stockholm. And we began to get committees on the environment at every level of governments, from domestic, municipal, to the provincial, to the national level. And we got laws to protect air, we got laws to protect water, endangered species, and millions of hectares of land were set aside as parks and reserves. In British Columbia, Tara and I were part of that huge movement, and we celebrated successes that we'd been involved in as well in our areas. There was a proposal to build a dam at Site C on the Peace River, and we stopped it. Another proposal that Tara was very active in raising money to stop a dam to be built at Altamira in the Xingu River in Brazil, and we stopped that. We stopped the American proposal to bring oil supertankers off the north slopes of Alaska through British Columbia waters to be refined in Seattle. We stopped drilling proposals in the Arctic and in Hecate Strait. And those are great victories. But now, 30 to 35 years later, guess what? We're fighting the same battles all over again. What we thought were victories were not victories. And as environmentalists, we failed fundamentally to use those battles as a means of informing people and educating people to see our relationship with the world in a different way. We have to shift the paradigm. Years ago, I visited a small village in the Andes Mountains in Brazil. And I learned that children in the village are taught that that mountain is an Apu. In their language, Apu means God. And as long as that Apu casts its shadow on their village, it will determine the destiny of everyone in that village. Now imagine how those kids, when they grow up, would treat that mountain, compared to a Canadian kid growing up in the Rockies who's taught all their lives those mountains are full of gold and silver. You see, the way we see the world and our place in it shapes and determines the way we will act towards it. We humans are predators. We have to eat plants and animals in order to live. We alter ecosystems in order to serve our needs. Thinking of the burning program that you have with your indigenous people in Australia, we modify habitats so that we can survive in them. But the way that we do it and the sense of values that we hold determine how we are going to actually behave. When a forest is a sacred grove, then lumber and pulp will be taken with great reverence. When the river is the circulatory system of the land, we will extract energy, fresh water, and fish very carefully. When soil is seen as a complex community of life, we will no longer treat it just as dirt. When another species is our biological kin, sharing with us thousands of genes identical to each other, then it seems to me we treat our kin with greater gratitude and love. When a house is our home, that's very different from a piece of real estate or a starter house or a tear down. When the planet is our mother, then who would treat our biological mother the way we treat the earth? The way we see the world shapes and constrains the way that we act towards it. 3 years ago, I received a call. You know that the big battle in Canada right now is over the future of the tar sands in Alberta. 3 years ago, I got a call from the CEO of one of the largest companies in the Alberta tar sands. I was shocked, but he said, would it be possible for me to come and talk to you? I said, absolutely. I would be thrilled. I said, I'm not into fighting. I'm no longer fighting because we can't afford losers. We've all got to be winners. So he came down to my office the next morning, and he came to the door, and I thanked him profusely. I told him what an honor it was to have him come to me. And I said, but please do me one favor. Before you walk in that door, please leave your identity as a CEO of an oil company outside the door. I want to meet you as a human being to human being, because I don't want to talk about the tar sands or its future. I don't want to talk about the economy until you and I, as human beings, agree on what the most fundamental needs are for human beings on the planet. We've got to start. I'll tell you, he was not very happy about leaving his identity, but to his credit, he walked through the door. So I took him to my office. I sat him down. I said, I know how difficult this is for you, but let me tell you where I'm starting from. I said, our world, you and I live in a world that is defined, that is shaped and constrained by laws of nature. Those are laws that we can't do anything about. We have to live within them. And I can see right away I was in danger of losing him. But I said, you know, in physics, they tell us you can't build a rocket that will travel faster than the speed of light. And nobody denies that or gets mad about it. That's a limit on what we can do. The laws of gravity tell us you can't build an anti-gravity machine here on Earth. We accept that. And the first and second laws of thermodynamics tell us you can't build a machine, a perpetual motion machine. And except for a few hucksters, most of us agree that that is true, and we live with that. In chemistry, it's the same. The atomic properties of the elements, the fusion constants and reaction rates all inform us of the kind of reactions that we can perform in the test tube and the types of molecules that we can or cannot synthesize, and we live with that. Those are dictated by what nature, what chemistry tells us. And in biology, it's the same. Every species has a maximum number that can live indefinitely that are defined by the carrying capacity of ecosystems or habitats. And you exceed that number, the ability of an ecosystem or habitat to support more, and that population will crash. Well, humans, because of our brains, we're not confined to a specific habitat or ecosystem. We can live from the Arctic to the deserts, to temperate and tropical rainforests, to wetlands, to mountains. I mean, we're a very adaptive organism. But our home is still the biosphere, the zone of air, water, and land where all life exists. That's our home. And it's finite, it can grow. So guess what? It has a carrying capacity for our species. Of course, the number of our species that can be supported is based on two things. That is our numbers, but also our consumption per capita. When you add that together, Australia, Canada, the US, Europe are very overpopulated because of our high consumption. But most scientists I talk to agree. We've exceeded the carrying capacity of the biosphere for our species. Man, do people get mad at me when I say that? How dare you say that? Look at the beautiful city of Adelaide. Look how we're living. We're healthier. We're happier. Yeah, we're creating the illusion of great success by using up what should be the rightful legacy of our children and grandchildren. Ask any elder. And biology dictates that you and I are animals. I gave a talk in Austin, Texas many years ago, and there were big audience with lots of children in the front, and I said, now kids, if you remember one thing from my lecture, remember we are animals. Man, did their parents get pissed off at me. Don't call my daughter an animal, we're human beings. And my response was, listen, madam, if you don't think we're animals, are you a plant? We are animals. And as animals, biology dictates our fundamental needs. And so I said to Mr. CEO, I said, what do you think is the most important thing every human being on earth needs? And I could see he was thinking money, a job. I said, look, if you don't have a breath of air for 3 minutes, you're dead. If you have to breathe polluted air, you're sick. So can you, as a human being, agree with me that one of the highest priorities of our species is to protect clean air? And then I said, you and I are 70% water by weight. We're just a big blob of water with enough thickener added, we don't dribble away on the floor. But you know, our bodies leak water, right? It comes out of our skin and our eyes and our mouth and our crotch, and we lose water all the time. I said, Mr. CEO, if you don't have water for 4 to 6 days, you're dead. If you have to drink contaminated water, you're sick. So can you agree with me that clean water, like clean air, has got to be the highest priority of our species? And then I said, you and I could go maybe 4 to 6 weeks without food, but then we would die. If we have to eat contaminated food, we get sick. Most of our food is coming from the earth. So will you agree with me that clean food and clean soil has got to be up there with clean air and clean water? And then I said, all of the energy in your body is provided to us through photosynthesis. That energy is captured by plants, converted into chemical energy, and we get it by eating the plants or the animals that eat the plants. We store that energy in our bodies, and when we need it, when we have to move or whatever, we burn those molecules of energy and liberate the energy of the sun back into our bodies. So photosynthesis should be up there with clean water, clean air, and clean soil. And finally, I said, Mr. CEO, the miraculous aspect for me of life on this earth is that those 4 things that indigenous people call the 4 sacred elements, earth, air, fire, and water, those things are cleansed, replenished, created by life. It's the web of living things that give us the 4 sacred elements. Before there were plants in the oceans and on land, the air was absolutely toxic for animals like us. Oxygen is a very reactive element. When you liberate oxygen, it immediately oxidizes things, it rusts iron, and it disappears. It was plants that converted carbon dioxide into oxygen, and over millions of years until the present time, it's all of the green things in the ocean and on land that are keeping our atmosphere at 19% oxygen. And in Vancouver, we get all of our water from 3 watersheds surrounded by old growth rainforest. The tree roots, the other plant roots, soil, fungi, and bacteria filter that water so that we can drink it. And it's life that creates the very soil that we grow our food on. All of our food, as you well know, was once alive. But in order to grow our food in soil, as anyone who read The Martian or saw the movie The Martian, when Matt Damon gets stranded on Mars and he has to stretch his potatoes out to 4 years instead of 1 so he can be rescued, there's lots of sand and gravel and dust on Mars. There is absolutely no soil. And so in order to grow his potatoes, he had to dig a hole in the sand, poop in it, and then get more life. We need soil, and that is created by life itself. And people that talk about terraforming the planet, my God. Anyway, don't let me get into that. It's the nuttiest idea I've ever heard. Anyway, so those are the things that, to me, define our most fundamental needs. It should be the foundation of the way we create an economy and get our jobs and live. I said, Mr. CEO, earth, air, fire, and water, and other living things that are our relatives, can you agree with me? These are the basis on which we live and flourish. Will you shake hands with me and agree that we both believe that that must be protected before anything else? And I'm sorry to say that he couldn't bring himself to shake my hand. He left, and I never heard from him again. Now, it was an unfair situation. I sprung it on him. He didn't know that's what he was in for. And it was unfair because he had come down as the CEO of a company to negotiate with me. If he were to go back to his shareholders and say, well, I had a discussion with Suzuki, I have to agree, anything that we do must not compromise the air, the water, the soil, photosynthesis, or biodiversity, he'd be fired in a flash. And so the system that we've created can't accept that as the foundation on which it operates. There are other things, I told the CEO. There are other things we call boundaries. We draw borders around our property, and boy, people will kill and die to protect those.
Okay, we're on the upload limit.